So for me, whenever I teach a workshop, I usually just like to teach the way I train because I feel like that's what most people like to see and are curious about. When I was young and I was taking workshops, that's what I was curious about. Like my favorite b-boy is how they approach the dance, how they conceptualize things. Hopefully everyone here can understand and speak English. But there's a couple things I want to get through. We'll see how much I can get through just with the time limit that we have, but I'll try to kind of get through the gist of everything, so we might not go super deep into each concept that I want to show you, but we'll kind of touch bases on everything. So I know the level here is kind of varied as well, so we'll keep it kind of simple, but it'll be more concepts that you can apply to anything. Like any of the moves that you do, you can apply it to kind of anything. I'll showcase it first, and then we'll kind of spread out, give you guys a chance to try the ideas, and then we'll kind of continue from there, okay? So for me, a lot of my breaking, I will say right off the bat, I don't have a good foundation. Like my foundation isn't very good, but I always just enjoy to play. And that's kind of the approach I've always had and the way I'll kind of show you as well. But we'll stick with foundational movements as the base of the play, and then we'll kind of go from there. So for me, when I started breaking, again, the creative aspect for me is the most interesting in breaking and the thing that I gravitate towards the most. I think as a breaker, you are an artist first, and I think that's how you want to approach it, and it's about expressing yourself and expressing your ideas. And I think the cool thing about these concepts that I'll show you is like the concept itself might be the same, but how you kind of showcase that concept will be very different because everyone thinks very differently. And I think that's the beauty of breaking and the beauty of art in general is that we're all different people. So I might give you the same idea, but what you come up with that idea will be very different from one another. Again, that's what breaking is the beauty of it. So we'll start very simple. Hopefully everyone can do a 6-step here, but I want to showcase how we'll start, how simple we can start and how much you can expand from that from very simple ideas. So I have this idea called, I just named it like building blocks, where you start with one block. You can think of it like Lego, right? You start with one piece of Lego, and the more you add on, the more complicated it gets, and the more interesting it gets, the more you add on. But you have to start with the base layer, right? So for right now, the base layer will be a 6-step. Again, hopefully everyone can do a 6-step. And we'll start with very, very simple concepts. Again, I'll just show you guys first, and then get you guys to go and actually try it. The most simplest layer, again, would just be a normal 6-step, right? What I then do, if that's your first base, this is the idea of like sizes, is the first concept that I want to give to you guys, okay? And so if you think of sizes, we think of 3 basics ones: small, medium, or like regular, and then large, right? And I think of applying that to any movement that I do. So again, we're using the 6-step as a base layer. So we start with the 6-step, and this would be a regular 6-step here. And then I give the idea of doing it small. So if I start regular, then I'm going to go small. And then I'm going to go large. So with this idea, I'm doing the exact same move. All I did is applied a simple concept to it, right? So I'm not changing any of the movements itself, but I'm changing how I'm doing that movement, okay? So again, if I do it from the beginning, regular, I can go small, and then I can go large. Right? It's the exact same move, but then fundamentally it looks different. So this is the general gist of the idea. When you start applying this to all of your breaking, it'll look very different for every step that you do, okay? But we're going to start with this, just to give you guys a feeling, and then we'll kind of move on from there, okay? So everyone spread out. Find a little bit of space. Oh, I'm going to say just regular. Start with your regular 6-step. I'm going to say small, go small, and then I'm going to say big or large, and then you go large, okay? Okay. All right, ready? Yeah. Okay. Can I get some music?
Music comment. Herkes küçük bir yer seçsin diyor. Birbirinize çarpmayın. Ona göre.
Find some space. You can go as fast as slow as you want. We won't do a lot because it'll get tiring, but just start with regular 6-step. So regular 6-step, go. I know it's not a lot of space, so be careful. And then small. Think small. Go as tiny as you can with your 6-step. So keep the same steps, but just make it small. And then large. Go as big as you can. Try to go big. And then back to regular. Oh, baby. Alright, good. Alright. I know there's not a lot of space, so much more. But you get the gist idea of it, right? right? So you can apply this exact same concept again. I'm showcasing you guys concept. You can do this to individual steps. So right now I showed you this with the 6 step, and then I'll show you with the other step. But you can do this also just to your overall breaking, right? So if you think about how you're dancing, even if it's just top rock, if this is regular, I can go small.
Yes.
And then you can go big.
Yes.
And you try to go big, right? So you can take a small idea, take out the actual foundation move, which was the 6 step first, and apply it generally to your breaking as well. Or you can apply it to a specific move. Again, we did 6 step. We added size. Okay, that was the first layer. So again, I think of it like Lego. If the first building block, the first piece was the 6 step, then we added size. So let's add another layer, right? So let's say if I wanted to do 6 step, I wanted to go as small as possible, but as I'm going small, I think of another layer, another concept to add on top of it, right? So maybe I think of, instead of being on my hands, I want to go down to my elbows. So 6 step, small elbows, right? So regular 6 steps here, small is going to go here, and then I want to find a way to go to my elbows, right? So all I'm doing is I'm taking one move. I haven't actually changed any of the steps. Still doing a 6 step. I just made it really small now, and then added another layer to it. And so instead of going on my hands, I decided, okay, let's try on my elbow, something like that. Okay, you can do the same thing. Maybe you try to go on your head or whatever. The concept of this is, again, what I call building blocks. You start with one block, an idea or a movement, and you add to that. So we're going to move on from the 6 step and try something else. Another one that's fundamentally really easy to play with, and a lot of people use, is CC, right? For me, it's probably one of the easiest things to make multiple variations of. So we'll start with the exact same idea. If I do a regular CC, it looks like this. One-handed or two-handed, right? And even that in itself is a concept, right? Because a regular CC is this, it's two-handed. If you take one hand out, that's already a concept, right? It's a very basic concept, but it's going from two hand to one hand. So we'll do the exact same thing. If I take the idea of a CC, for me, this is a regular CC, this is a small CC. It's the same movement, I'm just twisting a little bit smaller, and then for me, a big one will look like this.
Yes.
Right? The same move, all I'm doing is I'm exaggerating or taking away the exaggeration. Okay? And again, you can do the same thing where you can add another base concept to it. Okay? So let's say I want to do the concept of like movement. So instead of staying in one place, I want to maybe do a sliding CC, right? So regular sliding CC for me will look like this. Okay? And then I'll do the idea of small. So the same thing, but I want to keep it small. Or big. Same thing, I want to keep it big. Right? Exact same move every time. You're just changing the concept of it. Okay, and again, you can stack these. So with something like CC, the nice thing is, whenever I do a concept, I try to think about my entire body. What parts am I using, what parts am I not using, right? So we talked about the basic idea of a CC and how if you do a one-hand CC, it's already a concept, right? Now, if you do a one-hand CC, suddenly you have this hand free, okay? So you can think about, all right, in a CC, I'm using this entire, my whole body the whole time, right? I'm using my arm, it extends to my leg, and I'm using the other leg to kick down. So what's free? I have this other hand free. So what can I do with this hand? Okay? So you think of the most simple stuff. The first thing for me, and again, everyone's going to be different. That's why I love playing with concepts, because how you think is going to be very different to the person next to you. So the first thing I think about is, okay, I want to try to make it bigger, so maybe I extend. So from here, I go reach. Woo! Right? Again, it's the exact same move. All I'm doing is I've exaggerated a little bit more. I've utilized my entire body and reached out, but that changes the look and the shape of the actual movement, right? And so again, I want you to think about this idea for everything that you're doing. Try to be aware of your entire body as you're moving, okay? So I can do the exact same thing, and the CC is such a beautiful movement for me because most people do CCs, and most people do CCs a lot, right? Throughout your entire rounds or multiple rounds. And so what I like to do and play with is think about if you did a different variation of a CC every time. So even if you're doing the exact same movement, and I'll show you multiple examples of this, even if you're doing the exact same movement, you can create a lot of variations of that same movement, but it'll be different every time. So you can get away with, and I do this a lot, and again, I'll show you, of doing the same idea or the same concept or the same move, but you can get away with it by slightly changing that. Okay, again, I showed you one example, but there's so many you can do with one free arm, okay? And it's really just playing. Maybe instead of reaching and I'm literally just making this up as I go. Maybe I want to grab this arm instead. And a lot of times I start with an idea and see where it takes me. So maybe I grab this arm here, but I'm like, okay, this is kind of boring and simple. So maybe I grab extend, grab extend, right? So now I changed it a little bit more, but whatever came naturally. Okay, same thing. So I grab my hand, maybe instead I want to grab here or something. I grab here, but it feels kind of basic as well, right? So again, a lot of it is just accent. Maybe I grab here, root pull. Here, root, here, root, right? So it's still a CC. I've just changed the concept slightly, okay? Again, I can do the exact same thing, and you can start with a layer. Don't ever feel restricted. Let it take you wherever it takes you. So I do this a lot when I'm dancing and just freestyle. I just come up with the first idea as I'm dancing that pops into my head and I play with it, okay? But for specifically again with CC, let's say I was playing a little bit with the idea of a sliding CC, right? So I was sliding this way, okay? Now I think, okay, maybe I want to change the shape a little bit too. So I have CC, this is the first layer, sliding is the second layer. Now let's alter the shape a little bit. So instead of a traditional CC shape, which is one leg straight, one leg kicking out, maybe I want to do the same thing, but instead of kicking out, I want to tuck it a little bit more. So we'll do the same sliding set, but tuck, right? Already, it changes the shape. Okay, I want to change it a little bit more, so let's add another concept. I felt the tuck, right away what came to my head naturally is I can do the tuck, but come down a little bit. So instead, okay, I like that, but maybe a little bit more. I need, I'm thinking about the body parts that I'm using this hand, but I think I can accent that shape a little bit more by maybe going down to my elbow. So here, here. So again, it's fundamentally I'm still doing a CC. I'm just being aware of all the parts of my body that I'm using and accenting it a little bit more. And again, you can make 1,000 different variations just by doing this, okay? Same thing. Maybe another idea would be if I'm doing the CC, I want to do the same thing but change the shape even more. So instead of hooking here, I'm going to complete the hook and then flush. Okay. I change the shape again, right? And you can do the same thing again, just add here. Now I want to not just go back and forth, but let's change the level. So maybe I come up and then here. And then here, whatever, right? You can keep playing with it. So it's concepts on concepts. So a good example of this, and again, I say this a lot, I do a lot of, if you watch my breaking very closely, I actually do a lot of the same moves. I just use them in different variations. So if you think of traditional breaking, let's say, for me, one thing I can play a lot with, or different concepts specifically, one of the concepts I play a lot with is the idea of this shape. Just holding one, like connecting one part to another. And this one specifically I use a lot, which is my right hand or my left hand grabbing the elbow, okay? So this to me is a concept, right here, right? From this, the first thing that I came up with was a freeze, and I just jumped into it. Here, right? Oh. Simple freeze. All it is a shoulder freeze. I'm just here, put my arm down, and then change that shape, right? From there, a simple elbow freeze, or shoulder freeze concept, I said, okay, that was cool, but let's slide into it. Same thing, slide, right? And that's how I came up with that move. And then from there, that was a freeze concept. I did the exact same thing, same concept. I decided, okay, how can I do that in like footwork or flow work? So as I was freestyling, I played with the concept, and I think, okay, I want to do one slide.
Okay.
Right? Small concept, exact same idea, right? Same concept, but I'm applying it to different things. I took that same idea and I think, okay, how can I do this maybe in power? All right, so I thought, I've done it in a shoulder freeze, maybe I can do shoulder halos up here. I'm gonna try it, I don't know if I can do it right now. But it's an idea of mine, where I go here, jump, shoulder halo, and then here. Right? It's the exact same move, it's the exact same concept, I'm just applying it to different moves. All of those individually are not that interesting. A shoulder freeze, right? Being on your back, and it's essentially a back roll that I was doing, right? And then shoulder halos, right? But now it's significantly more interesting because I've simply applied one simple concept, okay? A concept can be what I just showed you, sliding, small, big, large, or it can be a little bit more specific. So, for example, let's say, okay, right now they're playing basketball outside. So I thought about, okay, how can I apply the idea of like basketball to your breaking? For me, if I think of basketball, of course it's like shooting the ball, but applying it to breaking, I would think of something like dribbling, right? How they dribble. So maybe as I'm doing footwork, I'm dribbling the ball, right? And so for me, that's taking the idea of, okay, how do I apply something else, something like basketball to what I do? Another thing, you'll probably see me do it a lot, is what I call an Edward Scissorhands. If you guys have seen the horror movie, The Guy with Scissorhands, I saw it in like a commercial once and I was like, oh, that looks cool. How do I apply that to it? You see me a lot top rocking like this, because I pretend I'm having a Scissorhands. Okay? I did that same idea and I just kept going with it. How do I make that into a go? So for me, I sharpen the scissor and then I split. Right? Same idea the whole time. Okay? Same thing here. Scissorhands. Right? So I take the concept and I can apply it to other moves. What I did here was just like a slide here. But by adding that accented look, it completely changes the movement, right? So you can apply it to moves that you already have. You can apply it to foundation, or you can apply it entirely to your breaking, right? So you can take a simple concept, like the idea of making something small, right? When I was first showing you stuff, we started with 6-step or CC and then small. But you can apply that to your entire breaking as well. So regular breaking is like here, and as I'm breaking, I decide I want to go small the whole way. And then I'm hoping, and then back to regular. And then again small. So I can do it as I'm freestyling and just apply the one idea to the overall picture as well, okay? So it's this idea of concept, but building upon concepts as we go. And I just do it naturally in terms of like the first thing that comes to my mind. Now, to be able to explore as much as you want, the first thing I will say, it's like speaking. Speaking in your language or speaking in English or a different language, you're limited by your vocabulary. It's the exact same thing in breaking. Have you ever had times where like you want to say something or you're trying to get across an idea to someone, but you can't quite explain what you're trying to get across? Because you know what it is in your head, but you don't know how to put it together. Like you don't know how to make the sentence. It happens to me a lot. It's the exact same thing in breaking. You're limited by what you're physically able to do, right? If you don't have the vocabulary to be able to do stuff, you can't explore that area, right? If you can't do a handstand, you'll never be able to explore anything up. And that's a valuable thing to be able to explore because of level changes. San Andrea was showing it before, where she was freestyling down here, and then she came up, whatever, up here, right? But if you aren't able to do that, you're limited then in your exploration. So you can practice these concepts, but that's why I think foundation is really important. But foundation is the element of like understanding and knowing your body and being able to explore all planes of movement. So as I'm training these concepts, I'm also training still my foundation, working on handstands, working on different freezes and holds, because if you can't do that, you're limited again on what you're able to explore. Again, I've had so many times where I had so many ideas in my head, but I wasn't physically able to do those ideas. And so suddenly I'm limited again, right? So even though I'm working on my creativity, you should consistently be working on the stuff you can't do as well. Your foundation, your freezes, your holds. Again, it just unlock more doors. And you might think, but I don't want to do a lot of freezes, but I think people don't understand. Like, for example, let's say, for me, one of the most important moves in breaking that I see a lot of high competitors especially use now is like a chair or an air chair. But an air chair isn't just a freeze, it's transitions. If you're able to hold yourself here, right, you can apply it to footwork. Like if I'm doing a footwork step here, I can apply the freeze as I'm doing footwork, right? So you need that not just to be able to freeze, but to be able to do different transitions too. That strength is very important, okay? So that is the first idea concept, and we'll play with a little bit first, but I'm weary of time, so I want to get through all the ideas I want to show you today. So as I practice, I think of concepts a lot, okay? Again, when you first start, it's like what I showed you. You can think of specific concepts. Small, large, big, fast, slow, different shapes, whatever. Nowadays, while I'm freestyling, if there's music playing, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. A concept could just be on here, and I want to go over there. All right? How do I get over there? I can go footwork, or I want to go fast. I can do a stroke. Okay. Or maybe I want to play more of a concept. So, whatever the case is, right? But sometimes, as I'm freestyling, I just think of an idea. I want to go over there. Or how can I put if I'm freestyling here, as I'm freestyling, my leg is here. Okay? What can I do with that? Maybe a kick out, maybe I grab the leg turn, right? Or I keep the leg there and see where it goes, right? So I often, as I'm moving, just think of the first idea or the first thing that comes into my head and I react to it. And I just constantly do that. That's what freestyle is. Okay? So again,
Concept is the first thing. The next, might be coughing.
Yeah.
All right, concept. Million different concepts, different holds, different shapes. Another thing that I want to explore that San Andrea actually did explore already, so I won't touch too much on it, is the idea of level change. Level change is also a concept, but what makes breaking unique and dynamic and interesting, at least for me personally, my philosophy, is breaking is constantly different. Doesn't mean it has to be explosive, it just has to be different all the time. And so if you're on the same plane, if I'm doing footwork and the whole time I'm here, it's not that interesting, right? But level changes, and we explore level changes on the three main planes of like your footwork, low, and then high. Those are the three kind of fundamental level changes and important ones. But I also, what San Andrea was also showing, is what I call micro level changes. Like from here to here is a level change. It's just slight. But what makes, like for example, again, San Andrea's footwork so interesting, she's constantly changing levels, right? She'll stay in the same place for a little bit, but then up, down, left, right, whatever, right? You're constantly making different shapes and level changes, and so your breaking doesn't look like this, it looks like this. If you see it on a line, instead of just doing footwork like this the whole time, you're now, right? Every single time, now I'm zigzag. You don't know where I'm gonna go. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going. But that's what makes it interesting, right? It's constantly dynamic. Again, dynamic doesn't just mean I'm doing crazy power or I have to do something explosive. You can apply the idea of dynamics to footwork too, or any type of movement, okay? So, concepts, level changes, and micro level changes. Okay, again, micro level change is hand to elbow, hook to higher hook. And like what Andrea was saying, it's the extension, right? So from this hook, you extend the hips up and out. That is a level change. I'm going from here to here, right? So if you think of, again, doing that constantly as an accenting, it changes it. Okay? The next one would be something like speed change. The next idea, the next concept I like to play with is speed change. So that, exactly what it sounds like, is just changing your speed. Right? Sometimes going slow, and then speeding up. Back to slow, fast. Slow, again. And that's the same idea applying to this. Right? Instead of just being like this, da-da-da-da, fast, slow, medium, whatever. Right? You're adding dynamics to your braking, right? Without doing dynamic moves. You're making your braking look dynamic. Okay? So these are the things I play with most when I'm practicing. Different concepts, level changes, speed changes. The last one is shapes. And shapes is different than freeze. Okay? Freezes is traditional in breaking. It is the end point of your round or whatever. But you can play with shapes within your break. Right? So as I'm doing footwork, the most basic one, for example, this is a shape. Right? But it's how you accent or create that shape. Right? Shape. And as I'm freestyling, shape, 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 right? So even, it's the idea of like if a photographer was supposed to take a picture of you while you're breaking, you should be in a shape, some sort, right? So it takes a lot of energy while you're doing it, but imagine creating shapes as you're breaking the whole time. So as I'm breaking, I'm constantly shooting up. Shape, 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 shape. So it's the same idea of what I showed you in the idea of concepts, where you're trying to be aware of your entire body. So if I'm here, I can just be here, but again, I'm aware of what is my hand doing, even if it's just grabbing my hat, right? Or grabbing the leg, whatever. You want to create an image, and to create an image, to create a shape, you just have to be constantly aware of everything. Every single body part of, every single one of your body parts, what am I doing? Being intentional with everything you do. Okay? So, concepts, level changes, speed changes, and different shapes. Okay, and you'll see me play with that a lot as I'm freestyling. So, just talk a lot. What I want to show you now is I'm going to get you guys to spread out, and I'm going to throw ideas at you. We'll start with concepts first, all right, and we'll go slow. I'll give you one concept, and either a move, let's say like a CC, we'll start with CC, and then just applying it to your general freestyle as well. So I'll take out the move, but give you just a concept to play with. And as you're freestyling, you think of it in your top rock, your footwork. How do I use this to transition? maybe can I use this in a freeze, okay? And we'll start with some of the ones I showed you, and then I'll show you some new. All right? Okay, spread out. Here, we'll go slow, but spread out, find a little bit of your own space, and then we'll kind of go from there. Thank you.